thank you for joining this session. So we already showed a lot this morning, but there are still stuff to show, so that's the point of this session. And really, the goal here is to go more into details, to show you what you can do already with the product, and also to exchange with you about the 44 iOS product, to gather your feedback, and to get your questions. So just before going further, I just want to remind you that 44 iOS is unfortunately not in 4D v17. That was just released this morning. It's, the point is to release the beta version of 44 iOS with v17 or 2, so which will be during the summer, something like that. And you could ask, okay, it's not available yet, so why did you want to show that to us today? So first, because it's a huge opportunity for us to meet you live, and also because we thought that it is really important that we share our strategy with you, so you can know where we are going, you can know that we are actively working on a solution for mobility, so you can also fine-tune your own development strategy and work on that with your own customers. So I'm going to go quickly through the slides. We will more focus on the demos here, and, but I will try at least to go again through the different steps to make it really clear. So regarding the needs, so 44 iOS is mainly targeting SMBs companies that want to extend their application to mobile with very simple needs, as I said this morning during the keynote. So displaying data, searching data, and update data. And the existing solution that we released with 4D v14, which is 4D mobile, that you all know, is really more intended for professional web developers. We realized that from your feedback that this solution was not answering the market of SMBs, for instance. So, however, 44 iOS is not only for SMBs. It can also be useful for any company, because you can, even if you are a very, very big company, you can have very simple user scenarios that you want to fulfill, and 44 iOS can just answer that. So the needs that we are talking about are pretty simple, but that's true that developing an iOS application requires some skills. And I'll tell you what skills it requires. So first, if you want to develop an iOS application, you need to learn either Swift or Objective-C. You also need to learn how Xcode works, because generating an iOS application uses definitely Xcode. You also need to have some different design skills. If you are designing a desktop application, you are really designing it in a very different way from a mobile application. Just because the size of the screen is very different, and also the best practices are really different from a mobile application to a desktop application. So it requires some specific skills. If it's been 20 years that you are developing interfaces for a desktop application, it's difficult to know what you should do for a mobile application just from scratch without really learning it. So, as I said this morning, we had many requests to provide our customers with a solution that would not require all those skills. So that would not require to like other language like Swift, like JavaScript, or Objective-C. And the request was also, it was a strong request to have something in 4D, not outside of 4D, not another product, and also something that would use similar concepts. So this is what we are trying to achieve with 44 iOS, is to stick to the concepts you already know, even if we are producing real native mobile apps. So 44 iOS is basically a new 4D internal component. It's just a 4D component that is integrated to 4D. And you don't need to know Swift, as I said this morning. And it also makes it possible for you to create various applications with their own UX and UI and with their own visual identity and user experience. And something important to mention is that this is an open solution. Really, it creates, and I will show you that later, it creates open Swift code. So it is just a regular Xcode application. So you can do whatever you want afterwards. If you think that the feature set is not enough, you can go further after that with Xcode. And in that case, you would have to either use Xcode to change the storyboards or to write Swift. But it's a possibility. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. If you just want to stick with 44 iOS, you can just generate your application and that's done. It's just for the people that have specific needs or that doesn't want to wait to do a change, for instance. So nothing is better than a demo to see what you can do with the product. So let's do a demo now. So here I am going to open my showroom database. So I have more tables than this morning. So various tables, contact, school, chemistry, products, movies, TV series, and etc. So I'm going to open a new I'm going to open an existing mobile project because I want to show you as many things as possible. So if I spend my time to build the project, it could take some time, and I wanted to show you the benefit quite quickly. So let's open it. So I open my project. I'm going just to the landing page. Okay. I'll remove that. All right. So here we can see that I already have a name for my application, which is showroom. And I'm going right there to the Structure tab. So this is where we can select the tables that we want to publish. Something to mention, in fact, the tables that you see here, that appears here, are the tables that are having a special option here in the Structure editor, which is exposed with 4D mobile services. So if it is not checked, you will not see the table here. In fact, you have to use a table that is exposed to REST. So here we can see in bold all the tables that have already fields that were picked to be published. So I'm going to publish the real estate table. You can see that there are some, here in the editor, some facilities to help you to easily find your tables and fields. So for instance, I can, type real to find my table. Or I could also just here find another field. Maybe also, up. I can show everything. I can, for instance, publish everything just by pressing space. So there are several options like showing only the published fields, sorting by field name, by field number, because we know that in your database you have many, many fields. So here I just selected everything. And I will go to the Label and Icons tab. So first, you see all the tables that have already icons selected. And here I will go to the real estate table that I just published. Oh, and also painting is missing an icon. I'll try to find something for painting. Looks like a brush. And a house here for my real estate table. I'm going to change the short label to houses. So again, the purpose here of the short label is to be used. You have a short label and a long label. So the short label is mainly used in the tab bar because the space is pretty reduced. So we are using the short label whenever it's needed, and the long label instead. So it really depends on the template and on the situation. So the editor, 44 iOS does that for you. Here I'm going to publish the fields for the real estate table. So I need to publish everything. And I'm picking some icons, sorry. So for the address, let's say the parking. Okay. And the price. I'm not going to pick icons for everything. The price here. And I'm just going to rename here. So contact phone, I could also use a phone. And I'm going to rename here contact phone to phone only. Okay. You'll see that, in fact, I didn't pick icons for everything. We have, and you will see the result just after, we have a process, an automatic process that generates automatically default icons as soon as you define at least one icon for your field. So you know the templates will really be consistent. Because if you don't pick any icon, you will just have no icons in your detailed forms. And if you pick at least one, we will generate other icons for you. Oh, and I forgot something. That's right, you can also upload your own icons if you wish. But the point of providing many predefined icons is that it makes it very, very, very convenient for you, very quick to start to show something, and you don't have to spend time to find your icons and everything. So we will move to the main menu part. So the main menu, as I showed this morning, so it's the order of the tables in the tab bar. So I will change the order to have the real estate table second and the painting first. Where is paintings? You just need to drag and drop it. It's easy. And then we go to the forms. So first, I will start by my real estate table, or something I forgot, sorry. So here on the upper side of the dialog, here, you can see the list of tables with the different templates that have been already chosen, because it is an existing mobile project. And what we try to do, by the way, is to have icons that are pretty straightforward, so you can understand what kind of template you use. So it's kind of trying to replicate the result that you have once you run the application. And here you can see that for the houses, which was the real estate table that I renamed, we have by default the simple template. So I will change that to vertical cards, and then I will use city as a search field, and then price, city, and photo. So price, city, and photo. So here you can see here in that part, in fact, it's only one cell that is represented. So you are giving the information that you want to display in a single cell, and it will be replicated for each record. And we will see that in the simulator just after. And for the detailed form, I'm going to use the left cut header. I drag and drop my fields. Something interesting to show, if you see here, it is supposed to be a picture field. If I'm trying to drag and drop another field that is a text, for instance, it's not taken, so it's small enough to check whether the type is correct. So I will then use the price, the address, city, zip code, city, zip code, and type. What's cool is that if you want to change the template, you said, oh, finally I changed my mind, I don't want to use that one. I can just, for instance, go to the parallax header, and you can see that all my fields are kept. As long as the type is correct, I can change the templates, and it's going back to the right one. So you can really, the editor is smart enough to save all the information. So now let's go back to the slide just before showing the result quickly. So just as a reminder, so first, you start by defining your application main information, like the application name, the application icon. Oh, I forgot something about the icon, sorry. I'll show you, just recalling. Here, I wanted to show you something. I'm sure that you all have a desktop application that has its own icon. So the iOS guidelines are that you have to use a specific size for the application icon. It has to be 1024 pixels by 1024. And it should not have, it must not have any transparency. So what we thought is that you all have already this desktop application with their own icon, and that you might want just to reuse it, or at least for the first time. And so we have an automatic process as well. So I can take the 4D icon. Up. And here I can just use it for my application if I want. And 4D is automatically scaling the image and scaling the icon, and also removing the transparency and adding a white background. So sorry, that was the part I forgot. So second point, second step, you define your application structure. So you have your physical structure from the fields that are exposed to rest. So with the 4D mobile option, you select a subset of the tables and fields that you want to use for your mobile app. And this subset is replicated in a local database inside the iPhone. Then you choose the names for your tables, so short label and long label, same for your fields, and you define icons that will be used in the tab bar and in the detailed forms. 4, you build your list form and detailed forms for each tables based on the templates we provide. And then I'm going to build and run the application. Everybody is waiting for that, I'm sure. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't stop that. Okay. So I'm going to build and run. Build. I'm using iPhone 10 because I don't have one, so it's just a dream. I forgot to remove it's because I already built the project once. It's just an alert. Okay, so once during the time it's building, so I will just show you a quick schema diagram to explain you what happens behind. Sorry, what's wrong with that? Okay, sorry. Okay. In fact, this is what is happening in the background. So when I just click the button Build, in fact, we have our 4D for iOS component that is on the left. So the 4D for iOS component contains the project editor, which is the interface to help you to build the application. It's a simulator, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay. So I was saying, okay, we have the interface to create the project, which is the project editor, and the project editor is used to define your own forms and to do the data binding. So when we are drag and dropping the fields, we are just binding the data to each form, and it also contains a template of an iOS application, and we are just replacing and injecting the changes that you have defined in the editor within the Xcode project. So we have a template Xcode project, and we inject your changes, and we create the workspace, the Xcode workspace, with the Xcode application that integrates storyboards. Storyboards is just the forms, and also some codes in Swift that is already in the application. And then in the background, so we launch Xcode in the background when I showed the demonstration this morning. Everything that is happening just while we have the wheel, it's that Xcode is started in the background, and then we are launching a project build in Xcode, and then we are also launching the simulator and opening the application inside the simulator. Okay, so let's go back to the demo. So here I've got my application running. So first, just to mention something about the templates. So if I'm looking here at the detailed form, so you see that here I had no icons defined. So this is why I have no icon showing here next to the label. So I've got the first description that is pretty short. And if I'm going to another description, you see that this one is much longer. And in fact, the template is responsive. So all templates have been done. It could look straightforward, but it's really required in iOS. Everything is responsive. So if you have longer data, more data, it's fitting. So the real estate table is here. And so you can see the list form, which is the vertical card form. And you can see here the prices. So that it is everything that we defined. And here, for the types, this is the default icons I was talking about. So you can see that we have automatically generated an icon. OK, now I'm going to show you something. So I'm going to search for a property in San Diego. So I found one. Oh, sorry, I found two. And this one, let's say that this one is too expensive. So I will just lower the price because I really want to sell it. So I need to go back to 4D, and I'm going to change the price. So I'm going to the real estate table, good. I'm doing a query. So it was San Diego. Where is it? Here. I'll change that to 450. And then I'm going here to go back. And I'm going to go to this setting. So sorry, I forgot to mention something. So here in the tab bar, you see that we only have 4 icons. You recall in the editor we had a huge bunch of tables, like more than 10. So obviously we cannot display the 10 tables in the tab bar. So we are just automatically adding a more tab, and you can see the other tables here. And here, the setting entry, it's a menu that we automatically add to be able to reload the data. So I'm going to settings, and I'm going to reload the data to refresh the data I have on my iPhone. There is a confirmation message. So it's done. Then I go back to houses. I'm going to look again for San Diego. And here you see we have the new price. OK. So now that's cool. We've seen stuff in the simulator. And I'm sure you'd like to see something more live. So we're going to run that on an iPhone. So I will just close the simulator. And here, I just need to push the install button, which will generate an IPA file, which is a kind of archive that is containing the application. And then I will upload that to the iPhone. But this process is taking some time. So in between, so we're not waiting and just watching the screen, we will look at a few slides in between. So once what is the process? So first you do all your configuration in the editor. Then you build and run your application in the simulator. Once you're happy with it, you think it looks good, it is doing what you want, you install that on your iPhone, and you check that it's working well on a real device. Okay? Then what is the next step? The next step will be to open that applications to more users and to do a beta test. So how do you do that? So to do a beta test, you use Apple Test Flight, which is in fact connected to what is called iTunes Connect. So you upload your build there, and it lets you share your app with up to 10,000 testers that can upload your build and run it on the iPhone and give you feedback. So you can, correct the bugs, if there are any, or correct the glitches, and then upload a new build. And once you're happy with it, you're ready to deploy. Once the beta test is OK, that you're finished, that you have your final build, there are two options to deploy an application. So option one is to use the submission through the App Store, which is requiring the Apple developer program for individuals. And what you have to do is to generate your archive, so the IPA file, containing some production certificates. And you complete your application information on iTunes Connect, which you use for your beta test. And then you submit your app for review to Apple. And you have two options. Either you can ask Apple to just publish it as soon as it has been validated, or you can also define that you want to control that and that you will be the one releasing the application at the date of your choice. So it is an option. The other option is to do some in-house development, so not going through the App Store. And in that case, it requires the Apple Development Enterprise Program. So it's kind of similar. You generate also an IPA file, but with some different certificates. And you need to upload that to a secured server, which is owned by you. And you generate both IPA files and a bunch of, like a manifest file that is giving URLs to all resources, like where the IPA file is, where the resources are, and you just share the manifest file link to your users, and they are clicking on it, and it's uploading everything at once. So, okay, just before going there, so the demo, the installation is, the generation of the IPA file has been completed. So here I've got an archive. I will just put it in my favorite to easily find it. Need to check my notes, making sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, so first I need to connect my iPhone. It's better. Then I'm going to start Apple Configurator. So it's my device, okay. And then so you can see what I'm doing, better than that, I'm going to launch QuickTime Player. Sorry, a few manipulations. So, okay. So I start a new movie. Okay, this is me. It's coming. I hope. Yes, it's coming. So you can see my phone. This is my personal phone. So here we are going to upload the file. So I'm just going back to Apple Configurator. I select my phone. I do Add, Apps, choose from my Mac, and I just pick the IPA file that has been generated. I click Add. And it starts to transfer. So sorry, it's taking some time, but it's worth it. I hope. So you see, it's coming, it's loading. And you can see I forgot to change the icons back to showroom, but we have the 4D icon. Why not? All right. Okay. So here is the painting table we already saw. So I'm going to show you more than that. So first we're going to customize our tab bar. So I'm going here to edit, and I will add rather the job table, then TV series, activities, and then medical. So here. So in job, this is really the point here is to show you what kind of templates we already have and how it looks. So this is a template using pictures, so for the job, with some nice graphs. So you can see here, I can just, swipe to change the record. In the TV series, we can see the nice, it's one of my favorite, the cube template, which is really nice. And you can see here, so the parallax effect. In activity, you can see that this list form is an example of a template of a template that doesn't have any picture, because we are aware that you might not have always pictures or nice picture that you want to expose already in your database. So we already included some very simple templates, just having fields and text. So here, it's again a kind of graph with an animation. So you can just define, numerics information and also some details in text. And for medical, it's the same template. And here, again, a template without any picture. So you're showing the birthday, the blood group, the blood pressure, and everything. Okay. So now let's move to the next demo. I'm going to just remove that. So what do you think? Good? So for the last demo, I'm going to show you that I'm not lying, that it is a true Xcode project. So what we are going to do is that we are just going to go back to the editor. I'll remove that. Okay. Here. So here in the editor, you have a project button or pop-up menu where you can either open the project folder. So I'm going to show you that quickly. So this is my demo project. Here, this is the 4D for iOS project, which is basically just a JSON file. So here you see there are the main informations. Then the data model. So this is the data model that will be replicated locally in your iPhone. And then later, sorry for the fast scrolling. Here, in list and detail, there are stored the different templates that you defined. So this is how the 4D for iOS project is done. Here we also are creating some assets, like icons, because you need icons of different sizes and everything. So we are creating all the resources automatically. And so the project that I've built, so that already exists as an Xcode project, I can just open it directly here in Xcode. Open the project with Xcode. So here I have my demo project. And here in source forms tables, I have, so all the tables are here. And for each table, you can see that we have, so this is the Swift code. We have a storyboard for the list form. You can see here the name, listform.storyboard. And a detailed form, a storyboard for the detailed form. So for each table, you have 2 storyboards automatically generated. And how does the storyboard look like? So here, you will recall what you saw in the application. So this is for the real estate table. So we had the price that was on the top of the cell with the CD below. And here, this is the detailed view, the detailed form. And you can see the information and the fields. You can find everything here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change. Let's say that I want to change. It's an easy change for the demo. Let's say that I prefer to have this information not at the top of the cell, but rather below, at the bottom. So I'm just going to select my two fields. And then I'm going to put them below. So let's say here. I just removed these constraints that was, sticking the price to the top of the cell. Here, I'm going to make the price bigger because price is very important. And I'm just going to finish by adding constraints because I need to stick the city at the bottom of the cell. So here, I'm just adding a constraint there. That's it. And then I just have to build my Xcode project. So what you see here is actually what is happening in the background. It's as if I opened an application, I just press build, and it opens the simulator. So here it's an iPhone 8. Didn't change the setting, it's here. See. Houses are there, and so you see the result. So it is really an easy change. So what it means is that we all know that it's always difficult to start from scratch on a new technology. So if I'm asked, okay, can you code an iOS application from scratch? It could be a bit tricky. It would require some time for me to learn everything. But just doing simple change is really easy. So again, it doesn't mean that you have to do it, but you can do it. It's just to show you that it's possible. Okay. So as I showed, so this is a real Xcode project. You can retrieve the same folder structure, so retrieve all the tables and forms with the code. All Swift files are commented, so it's easy to change, to make modifications in the files. And as we showed in the demo, you can easily modify the storyboards with the Xcode application. Oh, sorry. So this is what I showed you. Okay, so one of the strengths, another strength of the 44 iOS product is the possibility to generate multiple applications from the same database. Really, rather than having, as I showed you, because it was just for the demo purpose, an application with like 10 or 15 tables doesn't really make sense. It would be better that really several applications that are really, targeting a market or a usage. Like, for instance, if you are in the education, you could think about having an application for the student, another application for the teachers, and another application for the administrators, showing and exposing different tables from your structure. And it's really the way you should release that, and 44 iOS is really designed for that, to make it simple for you. And all those applications will be still hitting the same 40 server behind. So this is what I just said. Okay. Now the interesting question, what is the business model? The business model is not completely defined yet from the price perspective, so you have to be patient. But from the model itself, it's already defined. It will be based on named device. So one device is one license. And so as it is a business application, that's true, it's not unlimited. So it's one device, one license. And for the price, we'll have to wait just a bit. But we will communicate on that shortly. So what about the roadmap? So I discussed a lot with many of you. I know that we have a lot of expectations with 44 iOS. So the release of 4D for iOS as a beta will happen with v17 R2. And we will continuously enhance that and release R release after R release more and more features. Why did we not release anything yet? Because we've already been working on this for a while. It's because we were waiting for the MVP to be ready. So MVP means minimum viable product. So you know, in Agile, the thing is that you need to release a feature set that makes sense so it is testable. So for now, it was not enough. And for R2, it will be ready. And you will be able to so display data, build an application, as I showed you, with several tables, to search into records. And also, because I'm sure I will get a question, there is a restriction, so you can check the user login of your server to make sure that you are not exposing all your data to anybody, but you can have a restricted access to the data.
Thanks. I have several questions. You didn't demonstrate modifying data. Will that be in the first version?
The first version doesn't contain the data modification.
Okay.
But it will come shortly because it's one of the required user story, of course.
Okay. Will there also be the ability to add either buttons or scripts to run any 4D code behind the scene, or do we have to do that in triggers?
Yes, there will be. So for R2, to make it clear, it's not there.
Okay.
But it is in the product backlog, definitely, to be able to call project method or execute code. Of course, you won't be able to do anything that you like, but you would have some bridges to 4D to pass data or to interact with your 4D code.
And what happens with very large tables? I noticed you showed the JSON that seemed, you mentioned it being offline and online data. What happens if the table happens to have like 1 million records? We don't want to reproduce the whole table.
So what is planned, but not in R2 again, but planned for the next release, and it's really very, very required, is to have some kind of restricted queries. So you can define criteria. I want, I want the products, but between this date and this date. So you are not, getting all the data because it doesn't make sense. So really, we will provide you that very shortly.
I'm thinking that in addition to kind of two parts to that. Number one is that it could be, let's say that I have salesmen and I have different regions.
I'm sorry, I don't see who is talking.
I'm sorry.
There's too much light.
I know, it's kind of dark out here.
Sorry.
So let's say I have different regions, and so I'm in the West Coast and my colleague here is on the East Coast, and so I'm interested in downloading a different set of records than my colleague. And so maybe that's a different application, but it's really in the selection logic of the records, but I didn't see anything in there that would let me change that or identify that.
Because it's not there, but it's planned. Because you have to be able to say user 1 can do that and can see that, and user 2 can see the other set of data.
Okay.
So it would be balanced from one user to another. So you will have this mean. But it's not in R2. Really, again, we are showing that it's really a sneak peek. So I know that I will answer a lot about it will come later, it will come later. The product backlog is filled, but we are trying to prioritize the backlog according to your feedbacks. So this is interesting to know what you need.
So of course I have to ask the question, and being the product manager, your job is not to answer it, but I'm going to ask a question anyhow. Do you see this as coming through in 2 or 3 R releases, or in 8 or 10 R releases before the full feature set of what you envision is fleshed out?
It depends on what we think about the full feature set. If we think about being able to modify data, having different set of data according to the user, I would say a couple of R releases would be fair, but Thomas will answer the top manager.
As strategy manager, I would love when it makes 20 releases or even 40. Meaning, if we have 2 releases and it's done, means nobody wants it. When it's not interesting. If you have interest and wants more and more and more and more, this is what we did with 4D. For 30 years, you asked for more features, and we provided more features. So yeah, I would love to have 20 releases or more.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, quick question. you showed that you can manipulate it in Xcode after the fact. So if I make some changes, maybe even major changes, maybe even add some extra screens and stuff like that, when I go and rebuild, do I have to remake all those changes, or do I have to like keep a separate copy of my changes and merge them back in, or?
When you mean rebuild in 44 iOS, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. So if you are starting to change something in Xcode, you are doing a kind of fork. There's no import back. That's true. So you have to be aware. If you have a huge requirement that makes you doing changes in Xcode, you have to be fully aware that you cannot go back. That's a drawback, that's true, but it's also an open solution that lets you the choice. You have the choice. Because we could have done something where you are just stuck with 44 iOS and that's it, you have to wait for 42 React. The thing is that you have the choice to go further, but it's your decision.
Thomas.
Sorry? I didn't hear.
There's one thing what you could do. It's two developers. I mean, you have a developer doing Swift code and you have 44 iOS assets. You could see as a developer. If you run Swift in a multi-developer environment, you use a version control system.
Oh, that's
so
right.
meaning you do a merge like you do with any other additional developer. Just the same thing. And you have to handle conflicts and all that stuff. It is like any other Swift development.
That's true. Thank you.
Glad you made that point.
You can stay here.
So they're going to ask you.
Hi, could you,
Where
over
are you?
here,
Sorry.
over
Thank
here.
you.
Could you say a little bit about security? Are you planning on building in an OAuth protocol or encryption or anything like that?
In fact, regarding security, we already did a bunch of stuff lately in 4D to enhance the security, and you'll see that tomorrow in the keynote, and like HSTS or PFS that are very important. And those features were also required by Apple for the high-level requirement applications. Apple is requiring that mobile applications have a certain level of security, and we put that in 4D up front. So yes, there will be some possibilities to do that.
Yes, my questions. Oh, okay.
Hi, maybe I missed it. Seems like the app is tied to the database, or is it tied to an IP address? Can that be changed for deployment to clients that are running our app?
You mean live? Can it be changed live?
Yeah, or during the build process.
Yeah, during the build process it can be changed. It's here. I didn't show that, but here there you have a publishing tab. Sorry. And here you can put the server URL. So if you have server 1, server 2, you can just change that. But for now, there's no way to change that live or while the application has already been built. We also received requests also from OEMs like publishers that want to be able to do that. So it's in the backlog, but it's not for now, right now. Okay. But it could be done later.
So I assume it's Mac only, right? There is no solution for Windows?
Yes, yes. In fact, to generate an Xcode project, you need a Mac machine.
Right. So I saw when you changed the price, you had to go to settings and click reload for information, right? To update information from 4D database.
Yes.
So is it the only way, or it's planned to have some kind of timer to update it automatically, periodically, or whatever? Like how the data is pulled or pushed from 4D to the application, other than the initial load, of course.
I didn't get the end of the question.
Pulling and pushing data, refresh, either automatic loading.
Okay. So thank you, Brian. For the refresh, in fact, what I showed is that you have to go to the reload button to reload all the data. So this is the first step. Obviously, it will not remain like that. You will have, what we will do is that you have a better synchronization. So you have a set of data at the beginning. Then you can reload all data if you want through the menu. And as soon as you want to synchronize, you can just do like a swipe, to refresh the data and just get the difference. So we already have everything that we need inside 4D. is just to tie that to the iOS application.
I would suggest to add an option also to have automatic refresh of data on timer or something.
Yes, yes,
right?
that's right. Yeah, to have a setting.
Yeah. And the last question, you mentioned the license, one device, one license kind of. Does it mean all iPhone 10s have one license, or it means
No.
John iPhone who should have a license and Paul iPhone?
Brian is one, I'm one.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
He was asking about pull and push data, like we're not planning on.
Sorry.
Did you answer Andrew about pull and push data? Okay.
Right here.
Yes.
I guess on my wish list would be where in the list is maybe like lists. So pick list, in essence, we'd have another tab there for creating lists inside of the iOS. So just a list from a field. Is that on the list?
I didn't get, can you repeat again? I was just linked to Aaron. Can you say that again, sorry?
Okay, so it's in 4D there's lists. So it would be, in essence, you would have the ability to add a list, drop-down list inside an actual iPhone from those lists.
It's a different type of widget. Yeah, it will come. Yeah, it's not right now, and you're right, it will come later. But no, for now it's not there. We don't have
I
a
just want
kind
to
of
know if it's
pop-up
on the
menus.
list.
Yes, yes.
To add, yeah.
Excuse me? Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'll switch in French. Caroline. J'ai vu comme quoi vous avez fait la recherche au niveau de la plateforme. Maintenant, je voudrais savoir par rapport au tri et par rapport à d'autres types de recherche au niveau de l'application sur 4DOS, comment vous allez faire? Est-ce que c'est possible? Est-ce que c'est prévu?
Qu'est-ce que vous voulez dire au niveau du tri de quoi?
Par exemple, pour faire un tri, par exemple.
Pour trier les données?
Oui.
Ça va être prévu aussi, c'est pareil, ça va être un critère qu'il va falloir passer.
Ou autre type de recherche, autre type d'exécution, à part la recherche et le tri, ou même si on vous ferait faire d'autres recherches, d'autres méthodes, au fait.
Donc le fait de pouvoir, le fait de pouvoir appeler des méthodes projet, ça devrait répondre à votre question. En fait, on pourra appeler du code qui permettra de retourner des données, une sélection triée. Voilà, après, c'est ouvert.
Et la
so the question was about the fact to be able to search with multiple criteria, or also to call a project method. So this is what I just said. This is not there yet, but you will have some interactions, so you can exactly do what you want and just.
Et la version iPad. Donc, je
version iPad. About the iPad, in fact, we always said iPhone first because, for one good reason, is because on an iPhone you have less space, so you have less widgets, so it's a good start. However, everything that I showed already works on an iPad, by the way, but it's just that it's not fully designed for an iPad, because for an iPad you could expect to have, as you have more space, to have more widgets, to have more interactions, and etc. But by the way, we tested it, it's all working, because it's just responsive. So it's just having a bigger screen, a bigger phone.
So more than just the iPhone mode.
Yeah.
Excuse me? Do you have plans to incorporate relations or be able to pull from multiple tables onto a page?
Yes, very good question. It's one of the priority.
Good.
Because we know that you all have relations. And here, it's in this example, this is not like real life, I have to admit. No other question? No. Okay, so thank you guys, and thank you very much.